Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I'm Juliana Salazar, and today I wanted to come on Instagram Live and talk about emotional eating. So, I like helping people manage their energy and overall live a healthy lifestyle because it should be part of your lifestyle. It shouldn't be rocket science, it shouldn't be a struggle. And anytime that I'm able to help somebody else, it brings me a lot of joy and I'm grateful for it. So if there's anything from today's video that you find helpful, feel free to implement and to share it so that you can improve your health and continue on this journey. So I wanted to talk about emotional eating today because it's a topic that is generally, it's common, but mostly during the holidays. We just passed Thanksgiving, and it's typically a day where people feast and eat a lot, and it's considered normal here in the United States at least. But I wasn't going to talk about the holidays in particular today. I wanted to just focus on emotional eating. I did a poll earlier today asking if you had any questions about the topic about emotional eating at all. And so I did get a few questions, and I'll be answering those after I give you a couple tips and I talk about it a little further. So I wrote those questions down here because I'm doing the Instagram Live from my phone. And if you jump on live, you can definitely go ahead and ask questions. I'll answer them live. I will post this on Facebook. If I can save the video, I will post it on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you have any questions after watching the replay, you can ask then or contact me and we'll take it from there. So first things first, what is emotional eating? Well, I think really it depends on how you ask and who you ask what emotional eating is. But to me, it's eating out of whatever emotions you're having in the moment, before you eat, during, and after. It also means, and first of all, emotions are not bad. We're human, and it's okay to have all sorts of emotions, including sadness, happiness, excitement, disappointment, frustrations, everything. Like, there's no such thing as a bad emotion. And honestly, even if you're bored and you tend to eat because you're bored, that is also considered an emotion because you feel a certain way. So now that we've gotten the emotional part out of the way, it's okay to feel whatever is you're feeling, whatever is you're going through, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, I want to go into more detail of what happens before you eat. Let's say you sit down to eat lunch, and before you eat, you feel a certain way. You've had a rough morning at work or wherever you're doing, and you were feeling upset, right? Let's say you're feeling upset, but it's time for you to eat because you're hungry, and you sit down, and all of a sudden you eat faster, or when you eat, you don't enjoy your food as much. And then this brings me to my next point, which is while you're eating, you feel like it's not satisfying you. So because you have an emotion going on, which again, they're not bad, it's just happening in the moment, and you happen to be eating while you're having this emotion, it's harder to process both what you're eating, as in your digestion, and the emotions that you're having. So if you're having some sort of emotion and you feel the need to numb it or the need to suppress it, or you don't know how to overcome it or sit with it or let it out, you don't process it, but rather you eat, whether it is a time for you to eat, like an actual meal time, or you get up and you grab a snack or you grab something to eat and you eat just to feel that void, to hide that emotion, that is part of emotional eating. And this happens before and this emotion is brought up, and the idea of you eating happens before you even eat. So that thought, as soon as that comes into your mind, it's important to be aware of that moment and catch it so that it doesn't happen, and realize, okay, so I'm having this emotion, but food is not going to fix it. You know, we eat because it's fuel. Food is fuel, and we need to nourish ourselves, not because whatever it is that emotion we're having, that's going to make it go away or make it better. Right? I think oftentimes we confuse food with a sense of satisfaction, and it is. Actually, food is satisfying, it should be. But if you want to, for example, if you say, well, I've had such a long day and I'm going to reward myself by eating a chocolate cake. There's nothing wrong with a chocolate cake, but the fact that you're associating with a type of emotion, you just have to be aware. You can still have the piece of whatever you want to eat, but you have to be aware that one thing does not make something else better, or the piece of chocolate is not going to make the emotion better if you're eating out of emotion. So it should be the other way around. Whatever you eat should make you feel happy, should make you feel good and satisfied. So that brings me to my next point, and it's while you're eating, if you're multitasking, if you're watching TV, if you are working, if you're on your phone, if you're doing anything else aside from sitting in a dining table and eating, which happens to mostly everybody, and myself included, I have to be mindful about it. When you're eating and you're multitasking, you are definitely increasing the odds of emotional eating, because I can almost guarantee that whatever it is you're doing, whatever activity you're doing, it's bringing up some sort of, I don't know, mental or emotional thought or feeling, and it could contribute to how you perceive your food in that moment. So I know this may sound confusing, so I'm just going to give an explanation for something and then an example so that hopefully it's better explained. So when you have, let's say you're watching TV and the news is on, right? And when you're watching the news, they're giving some sort of report of, like, I don't know, robbery. Like somebody, like there was a robbery at the supermarket. And so you're like, well, wow, that sucks. Like, whatever. Obviously, you're not going to be, hopefully you don't feel happy about that news. So that is going to bring up an emotion, which is fine, right? And you're eating, but you're not even paying attention to your food. So first mistake, your attention is in something else that is not contributing to what you're doing now, which is eating. So two things are happening. Emotions are being mixed, and you don't even realize how much you're eating. So your brain actually takes like 10 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, depending on how fast you eat, for your brain to get that signal from your stomach that you're actually full, or that you're actually satisfied. There's a difference between being satisfied and completely full. So if you eat and let's say you've reached that level of satisfaction, but you're watching TV and you're watching something that's not even positive, like news, the bad news of whatever is happening in the world, then you will most likely overeat. And that's going to bring up additional emotions like, oh, after you're done eating, oh, I feel really full. And, oh, those news, or it sucks, or whatever it is that you're doing. Let's say you're working and you're having a long or stressful day. And so all of that combined will lead to emotional eating. So again, it could happen before, during, and after. And I will give some tips on how to manage it better, but to really get this point across, I think for me, if you can remember one thing, is that everybody has emotional eating at some point in their life, and it's okay. And emotions aren't bad. There are ways for us to be aware, to eat mindfully, to eat intuitively, and the right thing to do is just eat when you're hungry and stop when you're satisfied, not when you're completely full. But of course, there's times where that doesn't happen, and you should be okay with those times too. So that's the biggest takeaway, but now I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail. So we talked about what happens before eating, whether an activity, a circumstance, an emotion, something happens and you want to go to food to try to help you cope with it, which is not right. To help you numb those feelings, you go to food, whether because you're stressed or because you're bored or you have anxiety or you are sad. And it could be even a happy emotion, like you're like really excited about something and you're like, oh wait, I can't wait, I'm impatient, and then you grab something to eat but you're not really hungry, right? And then during your eating, you're multitasking, so you're most likely to be distracted, right? So we covered those two things. And then the third thing that I want to talk about is what happens after you eat. So you finish your meal, and what's recommended and what's ideal is if after you eat for at least 10 minutes to let your body rest and digest, right? So let's talk about that a little further. Our digestive system is a whole machine. Like our whole body is a machine. And I often compare this with like a vehicle, a car, right? So you put fuel, you put gas in the car, you charge it, and that's what's gonna make it run. Our digestive system, the food we put in it, it's that whole process as well. So this is the reason why when people tend to overeat or not eat the right foods, it takes a toll on your digestive system, and it has to work extra hard. And that's the reason why we feel tired, lethargic, and sleepy after we eat, because most of like the blood and all of the attention is going to your digestive system to digest that food. So if you eat heavy foods, if you eat unhealthy foods, or if you eat too much, it's going to be extra work. So how does that relate to emotional eating? Well, if after you eat something and you have an emotion come up, if you have something, let's see, an example. If you eat too fast, for example, and because you have to go somewhere else, and this is something that I always say, please take your time to eat, and then after you eat, don't go into another activity right after. Like, let your body kind of digest for a little bit. But let's say you rush through your food because, you're working, it's the middle of the day, and then you have to catch a meeting, so you almost didn't even finish eating, but, you have to move on to the next thing. That affects your digestion. And sometimes that makes us feel like, again, those emotions of like, oh, I'm tired, or I'm upset that I didn't even get to finish my food because now I'm into this other thing I have to do. So it could happen, and again, everybody's different, so it may not happen to everybody, but if any of these examples resonate, then that means it's happened to you at some point. So it could happen that you eat again after you've already eaten. So oftentimes this can lead to a binge, right? Like you eat more than you should, and you're not even hungry. You just eat because you thought you didn't eat enough, but you weren't even paying attention in the first place because you were multitasking, or you ate too fast, or, it could be so many things, and we can talk about this. Is a really, really broad topic, and I'm trying not to go all over the place. So if you eat after, technically we shouldn't be eating in between our meals. So that's the reason why I don't really snack, because I make sure that my meals have all the essential macronutrients, vitamins, everything that I need to sustain me until the next meal. But if we eat and we snack our way through the day, and we eat before we're even finished digesting the previous meal, it's just chaos, basically. Digestive issues, you will feel more tired, and sometimes that could even lead to weight gain or weight loss if you don't eat enough. So my point is that even after we eat, we have to be mindful of like, okay, how do we feel now? Like, am I really full? Am I really satisfied? Or am I extremely full? If I am, then, you know, it's okay. I don't have to be harsh on myself. I don't have to feel like I've eaten too much or too little. You know, I think it's important to accept the moment for what it is and not be harsh on yourself, because that's just going to lead to more emotions and things that, like eating more or eating less, and that if it continues over and over, it could lead to a different types of eating disorders, which is a whole another topic. So oftentimes, I mean, and I just want to clarify that having an eating disorder most of the time comes from emotional eating, but not always. And emotional eating doesn't mean that you have an eating disorder. So like they're not one for the other, but they could have a relationship between each other. So now that we've talked about what happens before, during, and after you eat, I want to give you some tips on how to be more aware of your emotions around the time of when you eat, or even just throughout the day. I think that is the key. Emotions are bad, food isn't bad, and both together, they shouldn't be the enemy, right? So the first thing I say is, actually, before I get into the tips, something else I forgot to mention is that oftentimes people eat, and actually it depends on your system, but for the most part, I've heard a lot of people tell me that they feel like they're hungry all the time. And one thing, it could be because they're not really nourishing their body, so they may be undernourished. And the quantity of food it doesn't tell me everything. I want to know what foods you're eating. What's the quality of the food? Is it something that is like frozen and it's been in the fridge for days, or is it something fresh? And then we can talk about the rest, right? Like, quality surpasses quantity when we talk about nourishment, because it's really important that you have really good food. You can eat a whole cake or a whole pint of ice cream, and that's not going to give you everything you need, right? So there are times that people eat and they're not really hungry. They're actually thirsty. So I would say, when you feel like you're hungry and you just ate like an hour ago, ask yourself, am I really hungry or am I thirsty? So I know it's like a question to be asking all the time, because I know if you're hungry like every 2 hours, then you don't want to be asking yourself like, am I hungry, am I not? Like, you know, maybe you may even forget about it. So what I do, and this is my first tip to manage emotional eating, is to always carry a water bottle with you. I never go, my water bottle's over there, so I would have to get up to get it, but I never, wherever I go, even in restaurants, when I travel, when I go, when I'm working, when I'm working out, like everywhere I go, I take my water bottle, and even if I know there's going to be water wherever I'm going. It's just a habit now, and the reason why is because the actual bottle reminds you that you should eat, right? It reminds you that, drink, that you should drink water. It's just there. And my water bottle is red, so it stands out even more. And I did that on purpose. I bought a red water bottle on purpose because I wanted to remind me that to drink water throughout the day. And so if you drink water in between meals instead of snacking in between meals, you will notice, I can guarantee you will notice a difference in your hunger cues, because your body sends you signals of when you're hungry, not like out of nowhere. Like if you have a craving out of nowhere, it most likely is not a real hunger cue. It's something that is brought up from an emotion that you're trying to suppress, or some feeling that you have and you feel like food is going to like fix it, or you're thirsty. Hunger, real true hunger, should come slowly. Like you shouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, I need to eat something now or I'm going to pass out. You know, like it should come gradually. So I don't really snack in between my meals. And one of the reasons why is because I drink water in between my meals instead of snacking. And my meals are pretty, like, I make sure, again, like I have all the things that I need for my body to feel good, and they're not like this size. They're pretty substantial. So I eat good quality and quantity. So when you have both, you don't feel hungry an hour after eating. You shouldn't feel hungry right after eating. And that is my first tip. And another benefit of not like snacking your way through the day is that you give your digestive system a rest. So like I said, your digestive system is like a whole machine that takes care of keeping you fueled, right? Keeping you active, and along with all the other organs, of course, but it plays such a big deal. And when it's always working, when you're always eating and snacking, and even if it's gum or whatever, the digestive system is always on. It's always working. And that's why I say don't eat too late at night, because at night we're supposed to like replenish, detox. The whole body goes through this whole process to prepare you for the next day. And if you have food in there, it has to work harder. So when you give and I know some people talk about this in intermittent fasting. I don't really do that. During the day, I just eat my breakfast, lunch, and dinner around the normal times. And my fasting technically is from dinner to breakfast, because I don't eat too late at night, or I try not to eat too late at night, and I don't snack. I don't have evening snacks. I don't crave them. I don't need them. So I would tell you that when you give your digestive system some rest and not like eat all the time, you're most likely to deal with your emotions easier, because whenever they come up, like I said, it's normal to have emotions. Then you know it's not like food, like you don't crave, it's not food, like you don't think about food when emotions surface, right? You're drinking your water, so you're hydrated, and you've eaten good, so you're not undernourished. All right, so my second tip is, and we talked about this already a little bit, is to not multitask while you're eating. Really take the time to sit down in a dining table. I know, like, there's people that eat in their car or in their airplane. I mean, do whatever you can. For the most part, 80% of the time, like the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time, try to eat in a place where you're sitting. I used to be somebody who would eat even in the kitchen standing, because I wanted to eat like quickly and be able to clean up and wash dishes and be ready to do the next thing. And that shouldn't be the case. Like, we should actually sit down, enjoy our meal, and enjoy the food. Use all your senses, right? When you really use all your senses and focus on what you're eating, you enjoy it more, and your digestive system actually is so much better. It's incredible how our senses are tied to our digestion. All right, and then something else. So if you're sitting in the dining table and there's other people there too, try to stick to positive conversations. And again, so if your TV is off and you don't have other distractions, you can still talk to people and not ignore people who are there, but try and keep conversations light and talk about good things. And that way, again, you keep in good emotions while you're eating, and everything is better for your digestion. Okay, so my next tip is to be mindful of your emotions throughout the day. And I think we've talked about that here and there in this whole video so far, and I don't know how long I've been on live. I thought it was gonna be a little bit, but my phone is gonna die soon, so I should wrap up soon. Just really be aware. And something I recommend, and I cannot speak highly enough, is to meditate. Excuse me, to meditate. Speaking of water, you like my cup? It's an owl. It's so cute, right? So meditation is so amazing. So I've always tried to get in meditation, and I was that one person who said, no, I don't have time, I don't have patience. How can you sit there and do nothing? There's a way. There's many ways to meditate. When you find what works for you, it's amazing. It gives you bliss. It helps you cope with your emotions throughout the day. And that is my number one tip when it comes to being aware of your emotions and just sitting with them. And that's the problem that a lot of people have, is when emotions come up, like I said, good or bad. I mean, there's no such thing as bad emotions, because we're all supposed to feel all types of emotions to it's part of life, to teach us a lesson, to understand each. Sorry, my video just paused because I said low battery. So emotions are bad, but when we are aware of them and when we actually sit with them and say, okay, but what lesson am I trying to learn? What is, why am I feeling this way? What can I do about it? And we internally analyze it. We can then make better choices, or take action or not. And I think just being mindful throughout your day of it, meditation helps a lot. So I can do another video about this, but me personally, I started to meditate just 5 minutes a day, and now I'm meditating 40 minutes a day, 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, and it's helped me so much. So if you have any questions about this, reach out to me and I can talk to you more about it. But it's really the best thing that one of my favorite habits that I do every day, and I look forward to it. No doubt it is not an inconvenience. It is the most amazing thing to say the least. So be mindful of your emotions before, during, and after your meals. And then my other tip is, whenever you want to work through your emotions, don't go to food first, but rather ask yourself what's happening. And there's many ways to do this. Like journaling is very common. If you're somebody who likes to journal, likes to write, that is one way to kind of let things out. Or talking about it, talking things through with, it could be either a therapist, a friend, a family member. You can even talk to yourself, whatever. Make a video about it, but not post it like a video for yourself, a voice memo. As long as you don't let things bottle up, you can't let things bottle up, by the way. Like if you do, it will definitely affect your emotional and mental health, and it could even manifest in some organs in your body. Like it's been scientifically proven that suppressed emotions could be manifested in organs and parts of your body, and it could become an illness. And it is really interesting, all the studies are about that out there, but it's true. So whatever it is that you want to do in a healthy way to cope with your emotions, do that, but don't go to food or alcohol, for that matter, or any other type of unhealthy habit all the time whenever you feel a certain way, right? Because that's not really, it may momentarily feel like it's fixing things or numbing. I think the word is numbing. People want to numb emotions, and it's not gonna work every single time. And it's really important to whenever you feel hungry, and especially if you're emotional during that time, you want to ask yourself, am I really hungry? Or is it that I want to eat because it wasn't a good day? So tune in with yourself. And something else that I like to talk about is intuitive eating, which again is what we talked about, eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're satisfied, but not when you're completely full. We're supposed to technically eat at 80% fullness. So I personally like to feel really satisfied and not any hunger at all. So but because I have a fast metabolism, I don't feel full all the time. So it's I know my sweet spot, but everybody has their own like hunger cue, whatever. But I think knowing what it is and finding out how you feel after you eat is really important. So after you eat, try and journal, try and like figure out how am I feeling after what I ate, and then the next day and the next day, you start to learn more about yourself and see what works for you. All right, so I would say that's it. Okay, so I had a few questions that were asked, and one of them is, what do I eat so that I avoid emotional eating? Like I said, the quality of your foods are really important. What I like is what I recommend is as much whole plant-based foods as possible. I personally don't eat any animal ingredients, and I'm completely fine with that. If you're somebody who eats meat, dairy, cheese, eggs, like animal ingredients, try and reduce the quantity to the point where you're eating mostly, doesn't have to be completely, but mostly whole plant-based foods. Those are just going to transform you, like literally, physically, internally and externally. Give it a try. If you don't want to do this forever, you can try it for 30 days, see how you feel, and see for yourself the results. And like I said, oftentimes people eat more than they should or out of emotions because they're not nourished. So your brain is not even nourished, and it's asking for like, give me more, give me food, give me real food. And you feed it donuts and bagels and crackers, and that's not gonna fuel you. That's not gonna fuel you. It's just not gonna do it. So eat good. I would say, again, your fruits, your vegetables, your grains, your beans, your legumes, and if you eat any animal ingredients, don't eat too much of it. Mostly have it be in plant-based whole foods. And then of course the water, right? Drink water between your meals, not right after you eat, but like 30 minutes after you eat. Like, again, give your digestive system some time to process. And then the next question that I got was, do you help people with emotional eating? And the answer is yes, I have. And if you want to learn more about that, you can definitely contact me, send me a private message, DM, whatever you want to call it, and we can talk more. I'm actually giving away 50-minute free consultations where we dig deep into whatever it is that your issue you're having. Oftentimes is related to food or fitness goals, but overall I focus on helping people manage their energy, not necessarily increase it to the roof, because you don't want too much energy. You want to balance it, right? And then just have a healthier lifestyle, sustainable long-term, that makes sense for you. So I tailor whatever it is your goals are for you, for your needs, for your schedule, for your life, so that it's realistic and it's sustainable. I think that's so important. It's the reason why I don't believe in diets and certain like protocols or restricting, or I think that's just a whole cycle that I've been there, so it just doesn't work, honestly. So yes, I help people with that, and with fatigue. If you have a hard time, staying alert, and you feel like you have fatigue throughout the day and feel lethargic, I definitely can help with that as well. And then another question I got is if emotional eating is genetic, if it's passed down. I'd say, I've seen research about this both ways, that there's certain habits that are passed down at a cellular level from generation to generation, but it doesn't mean you have to, like, if you're stuck with it. Your lifestyle, your habits are up to you. Like, you have the last word of what you put in your mouth, of the emotions you feel, of the foods you eat. Everything is your choice, right? So yeah, you can argue your mom, your grandma, your great grandma, your whole, like, everybody in your chain of ancestry has had emotional eating struggles, but it could be because not necessarily it's in your genes, but because the habits are the same and the habits are passed down, the lifestyles are passed down, the culture is passed down. So take a look at that and just realize that you have the last word and you have a say into what you do. So, okay, then last question is if it could be prevented. I would say being more mindful about it and eating intuitively will definitely help manage emotional eating. But I think it's super important, and this is what I want to end with. It's super important to be okay with a time here and there. Hopefully, not too many times, but here and there, that you have an emotional eating experience. Because I would say it's impossible or very unlikely for you to never have an emotional eating experience. We are human beings that have emotions, and I mean, you would have to be a robot to not feel anything while you're eating, right? It's not realistic. So as long as we are aware of when we're hungry and really take the steps to eat when we're hungry, stop when we're satisfied, fuel our body well, do all the tips that I mentioned today, do all of these things. If we do that, it would definitely lead us or help us to avoid continuous emotional eating habits. I think that it becomes a problem when it's continuous and when it becomes a regular thing. When you get home from work and you sit in the couch and you eat a pint or a gallon or however much of ice cream or junk food and popcorn, whatever, because your day was bad, because whatever, that continuously, that becomes a problem. That is not healthy for your mind and for your body. So, but here and there something happens and then you happen to be you have no control over it, but being okay with it and not being hard on yourself and not feeling terrible about it, it's important too, because then you get into the mind of the complete opposite, right? You go from not caring what you eat, how much you eat, and if you eat out of emotions, to the other opposite, which is being extremely obsessed with oh my gosh, it has to be perfect, the perfectionist mindset. Both of these extremes are not healthy. They are detrimental to your mind and your body, soul for that matter. So, all right, so that covers everything. I do want to offer anybody who watches this video, whether live or recorded, the opportunity to improve, again, to not completely avoid and have absolutely no emotional eating in your life, because like I said, nobody's perfect and we all have we tend to have emotions as humans, right? We can't avoid emotions. I have a guide to help you. It's called my Jumpstart 4-Day Jumpstart, to help you get into this path of eating more intuitively, of really getting in touch with what you feel and in the moment, if you feel like eating or if you don't, and eating the right foods, which is most importantly what I already mentioned, choosing the right foods that fuel your body, eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're satisfied, and if you happen to eat a little more, not to feel guilty about it. So I talk about all of those things in this guide, and I want to give it to you for free. If you want this guide, just send me a direct message or comment on this video and I'll reach out to you and I'll send it to you right away. And if you want to learn more about your specific situation, if you're somebody who needs help with your health and wellness goals, particularly if you struggle with energy and you want to have a healthier lifestyle, sustainable, long-term, that meets your schedule, your needs, your situation, improve your health overall, I'm definitely open to talk to you. We can look at our schedules, and I have 50-minute free consultation, and we can definitely dig deeper into what your issues are and what your goals are and take it from there. So with that, I already said that I'm going to be posting this on YouTube. So if you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, we post videos weekly, and content like this and more we cover there. So it's a lot of fun. I love doing those videos because the information that I share, the more that we share, the more that we like remind ourselves of it. So whenever we make those videos, it reminds me of like, okay, I need to focus on this, or if I'm working with somebody else, I'm helping somebody else, I should talk about that. So if you feel called to go out there on YouTube and watch the videos, feel free. We have different topics there: mind, body, emotions, everything. And subscribe so that you get notified when we post a new video, and just share the knowledge. It's free content, so obviously, enjoy it. And I'll talk to you whenever I do the next live video. Have a good rest of your day.